I posted feedback, but I was just wondering if you did you manage to put any more work into that? What's the status of that?
Yes, I completely changed it. I created it's I haven't pushed it, so I created a separate field called email.
Yes.
Which is an input type of type email.
Okay.
But I don't know how to now. What I want to do is that I want the control to have email validation. So which I managed to do previously by the change that I had pushed, which is in the pull request. So I don't know how to validate for email. Where should I put this function without having to call extra validate method when the form posts?
Okay, so you had this code in the normalization code. So that's a function called normalized. If you have a class now which is called email, you can override the same function and you can have the same code there.
Will the normalize function be called then automatically? Because I didn't try.
Yeah, it should be.
It should be. Okay, so I'll try that and let you know.
Yeah, and if everything is fine with the email, you just call the parent and return the value.
Okay.
So that's the standard.
Okay, I'll give it a try. Sure. Because I still don't I haven't much time and I don't have much time to study, so I don't essentially know how the whole thing operates.
Yeah, that's okay. So I suggest you can close the existing pull request and you just need to add one new file, one new class, and that's it. You know, that's enough.
Yeah, I'm not talking about GitHub. I'm mostly talking about ATK itself. So there are many things which I don't know, and which perhaps I'm doing a whole lot of things which are unnecessary or which are really simpler.
Yes.
But it will take some time for me to get the grip of it.
Yeah, you're not the only one. Many people follow the same way. They try to do a lot of things, and then they understand they shouldn't have done it. So I think it's a normal path for people as they explore.
Welcome to my last year.
Yes. I do not know how to help you with this. It seems that
I'll post another pull request.
Yes.
And see if I have a question. Perhaps I can post within the pull request. Okay, how do I do this? For example, if it's possible.
Yeah. So I'm gonna close this one, and then you're welcome to post a new one.
Okay.
Okay. Good. So all right. Let's see what else we've got. So in it, I'm just going to. Okay, you do see my screen. Once again, and I'm talking and I didn't check if the screen is shared, but I think it is. So there are issues with handling. Let's see what we haven't discussed.
One thing I stumbled upon, and I would like to hear your point of view on this. It's something that our Italian suggested. It's like there's lots of code where we catch /exception E, so basically any exception that gets thrown.
Yeah.
If it wouldn't be sensible, as we moved to PHP 7 or are moving to PHP 7 now, if we shouldn't catch throwable instead, so to catch errors as well.
I think there was a pull request for that, and it might have been integrated. Actually, yeah, now that you mentioned, this was something that Filippo was doing.
That I was doing?
Oh, not you, but Francesco, sorry.
Yeah.
Francesco.
Okay.
So he submitted this huge pull request into ATK UI, and it included many things, including
Yeah, but it never got merged, I think.
Yeah,
right?
because it was like massive, and he had everything.
Yeah.
And he said he will clean it up, and he never did. So yeah, let's tell him. Was throwable, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it makes quite sense, because usually when you try to catch any exception, you usually want to just, in case any error appears, do this. So why not catch PHP errors as well?
Yes. Yeah. That makes sense. All right. So a couple of other things. What was it? Yeah. So this one. So these are the issues from in ATK UI which are marked for Hangout agenda.
Yeah.
I think we should just go over them. See. So I was talking with Elaine about that, and we have support for array. The idea was that if we see that in a form, we should get multiple fields one under another. Because when we have this typeless support, so if you don't specify a type, it appears as a field and you can fill it out.
Yeah.
And I feel that if the type is array, then you should be able to enter multiple. So for example, you can say phone numbers, and you specify array type array, and then use type them in. And then using the different types of serialization, you can either store them as JSON or serialized string, or maybe you just separate them with a comma. So I think this can be cleaned up, and this way we will have those hand. It's quite common practice to have something like this.
Yes, exactly. We do have the multi-line
that
add-on for the form already.
Either a multi-line or something a little bit more simpler. So I'm not sure on the implementation.
Yeah, because with these, if you just display fields, you cannot. You can delete by just emptying the value maybe, but how do you add new array elements like this? If you just have fields, there's no way to add a new one.
It always makes sure there is an extra line. So one line, last line is empty. So as you type
okay, I get it. Yeah, but basically it looks a bit to me like a I think it was called multi-line form with just one input.
Yes.
Usually you pass a model to the multi-line form and think of it as a model with just one field.
Yeah. I don't mind either way. As I said, I don't think it needs all this functionality of the multi-line form, because I think that's quite complex. But sure, why not?
Could be an approach, yeah.
With the multi-line form, well, there are some glitches with it. So the implementation, even though it's merged, it's not cleanest implementation.
Yeah, well, that's always when something's new, you always start finding stuff once you use it.
And this is actually for multi-line, right? So if there is a contains many on the form, right now nothing is happening. So we treat contains many just as any regular reference. But in here, the idea is to actually present it in the form.
Yeah.
So that would change the way how your application works if you're using contains many. And then for contains one, so if we just continue refactoring all of that, if there is a contains one and it has some sort of a class, then it should present in the form as a group. So in
I get it, group fields.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Right.
I think these contains one and contains many features very, very strong. Once you really start using it, you can do so much with it.
Yeah.
And of course, if the form automatically works with it without writing a single line of extra code, that's
By the way, have you
great.
seen contains one with embedded class? How it's working?
Pardon?
Have you used a syntax for contains one with embedded class?
I never used contains one yet, but
it's really
I'll start using contains many. I don't have a use case for contains one, but I do for contains many.
Actually can work with contains many as well, but the point is that in PHP you can define class and use class at the same time.
Yeah, the anonymous class. Yeah, I wanted to start using this.
Have you ever used that?
Pardon? No, I didn't. I was starting to use it to test some lines which are hard to test in my code by just I had read a nice article about it using these anonymous classes.
Okay, I'll give
which could ease stuff up.
Class client extends model. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you have that model. Yeah, so I'm in the core project, so it doesn't work. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Event init.
Yeah.
And then we have the this add field name.
Yeah.
This S1 address. And here you go, class extends model.
Yeah.
Think like that.
Yeah.
And here you can define function init once again. Again, parent.
Yeah.
And you just start defining your street, yeah? So this add field street. And really nice. You don't need separate class for that, for that. The one which is in the middle. And it is nested class, and you can't use it without the outer class, but that's absolutely so.
Yeah, in this case, you wrote has one, but I'm sure you mean contains one. Because if it's has one, it doesn't make sense to have the class definition inside this model.
The only thing here was you need to do a public caption and do something like address.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's great. What else do we have? This was, oh yeah, did you solve that?
No, I didn't solve it. I just wrote a proposition how to maybe fix this.
Okay, so let's, what do we have? Let's look at the use case. And I know I can probably use autocomplete in here. So that Alex and whoever watches this video will understand. So if I look at the network traffic in this specific case, and say start typing, it creates a callback, and the information that comes back is essentially just ID and the name, even though country might have some additional fields. So normally in the case when we only need two fields, there is a way in ATK how you can just ask model to query those specific fields, and that's with only fields. So ATK that there is documentation for that. The problem though is if inside your model you have some sort of a post-loading hook which require
or some expression,
or expressions are fine. I mean,
really,
if it's a SQL,
oh yeah, they are calculated on the database, of course. Forget about it.
If it's a database calculation, it's fine.
Yeah,
because it just embeds the field. But if it's calculated in PHP, and you rely on some of the fields which are outside of only field, they will not be loaded, and any attempt to accessing them will result in exception. So the workaround here is to make them system fields, because system is a flag which says this field is needed in every time when we try and load something.
Yeah, but also system usually hides the field in a form. So when setting these fields system, but you still want to use it in a form, you would have to add editable true. So it's quite of a bit. Of course, it's maybe the most correct way to do it. I'm just thinking of people new to ATK. You start coding and start using these super nice forms and add a drop down and everything works fine. And then you add some small afterload hook where you use some field and suddenly everything's broken and throws exceptions. It's just another thing that might not work out of the box but needs adjustments.
My concern is that it's probably not only the drop down, but there will be some other cases when user only wants specific fields. So in theory, models should work with any combination of fields requested.
Yeah.
So it's just you need to keep your models definitions correctly.
I get, and by saying system true, you make sure it works everywhere.
Yeah. So
whatever is set to. Yeah. Now that's a totally sensible approach. Which was just regarding the drop-down case. Of course, you're right. That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, my concern is that if you have a system which uses drop-downs a lot, and if the default way is to query all the fields, it's just too inefficient.
Yeah, I totally get it. Especially if you have expressions defined, which just takes some calculation time.
So are you okay if we close that?
Yes, sure. Maybe not close it, but assign it to me, and I'll add some documentation to drop down.
All right, let's do that.
And I'll write, so hey, by default, drop down when used with a model is only using ID field and caption field, which might break, blah blah blah. The correct workaround for the correct way to approach this is setting these fields to system, which will indicate that they will always be loaded whenever the model is loaded.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I hope people read documentation, and if they do, it might help them.
Yes.
Fixing that.
The other thing we could do, so you probably were getting the error when something like this field is not accessible or something.
Yeah, it was afterload hook.
Yeah, we could also provide some sort of a link or like information which they can Google or look for, which will lead them to that information that you would want to write.
That would of course be awesome. Yeah. Of course, this in the long term, this would require even more documentation work probably, because if it's linked directly from the exceptions, we take even more care that the documentation is up to date.
Yeah, I wanted
the idea is definitely great. You get the exception, you get the nice UI output of the exception, and you have a link where you can look it up right away. This, of course, is perfect, I think.
Mm-hmm. I just want to. So what I'm looking for. I think in somewhere in the old toolkit. No. There was this approach where each class had a URL of the help system.
Okay, nice.
But it was never working. I just want to see if I can find that. Maybe it was
another approach, of course, would be which would make it a bit less dependent on the actual documentation. Ah, yeah, cool.
So yeah, it was never. The idea was when you get an error and you have a backtrace, you can actually access all the objects, and you could hyperlink each step of the trace to a relevant documentation. So if there is an abstract object, we know which page documents the objects. So if you click on that, then the documentation for abstract objects opens up. But this idea was never implemented fully. But still, I was considering it.
Yeah.
There was one other
document.
thing.
Pardon?
There was actually one other thing. Yeah. Keep talking. I'll try to find that other thing.
Yeah. I was just thinking of maybe a different approach to this, which would make it less dependent on the actual documentation. If we have an exception where additional explanation might be good, we could also just extend exception, like field not in only fields exception, and add some description in there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so you can output it right away in UI when you display the exceptions, like say 500 signs of explanation for this, and maybe in there some link. So if we code and throw some exceptions where additional explanation might be good for the ATK users, we could provide it that way also. Would also have the benefit of catching that very special case of exception.
Right.
Well, for this exception, I don't see a real use case of catching it. But you know what I mean? That you can define catch.
Yeah. So So this is the exception of old ATK, and just like in the new ATK, it has this method add more info. There's also a method called add this, so you can pass the object, which kind of tells you which object actually raised the error. But the curious thing is that it had a method called add solution.
Oh, nice.
Solution. And in this case, you could so
recommendation property. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
Text recommendation, how the problem can be solved. Yeah, and okay, so when you it's called add action. Actions will be displayed as links on the exception page, allowing viewer to perform additional debug functions. Let me. Yeah, probably should type things here. If you want to port that to the ATK core, sure. So you would just need to implement it on a core level, but also will need to create visualization for the solution. On the UI, it could be a button of some sort that takes you to documentation.
Yeah. Just thinking about a process when you see some question is asked in forums or in chat, like, oh, damn, I get this exception, what can I do? You answer it, and it wouldn't be, if we think it's sensible, too hard, just adding another exception class with the text we already typed as recommendation.
Yeah.
Of course, if we do this too much, we'll end up with hundreds of exception classes, but I think that could be the only field thing.
Yeah, well, someone like Alex, it could point him to the right place in documentation. Sure, he wouldn't need to spend less time to actually figure out things.
Exactly, and in the end, it also would save your time, because if the solution is already there, we won't ask you, because in the end we usually ask you.
Mm-hmm. Actually, I think exception is rendered in core, right? So
yeah. The core exception has get colorful text, get HTML. It's rendered in core, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I need to remember that to might need to translate. All right. So yeah, we can close that issue now, and can assign that to you if you wanna work on that. Okay, cool. That would be amazing, and I wouldn't mind going over some exceptions and put the correct solution point into the right direction. And then, yeah, maybe we can spot something which is not there. Okay. Anything else to discuss today?
Pardon?
Do we have anything else to discuss today?
There was actually something, but I don't remember at the moment. Alex, do you have something?
I do have something. I don't remember when, Philip, we talked in private about what you've made concerning many-to-many relationships. So I took the code. I have modified it quite a bit, and actually I wrote my own code on top of it. And if you want, guys, I can present you what I've done to see a bit how it is, and with the help of Emants or Romance, perhaps it could become a control, because functionality is here. Although today I've refactored it, so I don't know if it will work 100%. But I have trouble, for example, adding it as a field in the ATK way. So if you want, I can present you the control, show you a bit of code, and perhaps we can proceed with that if you think it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think the outcome we wanted to achieve is quite nice. Romans, just for you to know, it's about using a drop down where you can select multiple options to use this as UI for many-to-many mapping.
Can I present?
Yeah, sure. I wanted to say one thing about many-to-many. I talked with Emants, and in my opinion, if we're talking about many-to-many relationship, then the table which is in between, just connecting those records, must not contain any additional fields other than those pointing to the two records. Okay, so if you have, for example, a song and you have a tag, and you need to connect many-to-many relationship between the song and the tag, you need only two fields in the intermediate table. Otherwise, it's not really a many-to-many relationship. So it's a one-to-many. Yeah.
Okay. Do you guys see my screen?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So essentially, I wanted to create tags. So that's a reservation, and we can put tags in the reservation. At this point, we have only test one as an entry. we can say test 1, we can add test 2, and test 3, for example, and we can save, and once we've saved, we can go back, and the tags are here, but they're also inserted into the tables. So if I go to any other reservation, we have the tags here. And as previously, I can add another tag, save, and
That's very
I
handy.
guess you get the idea.
Yes.
Here it is. So this is done by using 3 tables. The source table, let's say the table reservation. There's the junction table, and there's the target table, which is tags in the specific case. It's using drop down with multi select, as you see. And to show you some code.
It works nice.
That's the, I called it junction drop down at this point. So it has saved data. I'm trying to document it because there are some issues. For example, the drop down sometimes can allow duplicate values, so there can be trouble with that. Someone could add a tag 2 or 3 times. So I'm doing essentially I'm managing joins, and I'm adding, for example, here insert join record. I'm inserting the join record, but I do have a validation before, which can be enabled by using this flag. This insert and join inserts the new tag, let's say, and then inserts the join record. And the way I've done this is that it can be used with any 3 tables which have a structure. So it's not related to the specific objects. It's generic, and it can be used. I'll use it because I have multiple tag systems. I'll have fields. I have tags for many things, and I'll also have other things which work like tags. So it's really a field that you'll add, and it will work. My problem at this point is that I don't know how to do all this in the ATK way. For example, I have created an add field method and the container to which the field will be added, and I pass the options from a junction drop-down options object which I created, and I do it like this. So I create the options.
Alex, may I interrupt you?
Yes.
Are you already presenting code to us? Because at least I only see your UI.
Yes, I do. You don't see VS Code? Oh gosh, wait.
No, I don't see code.
Yes.
Because you talked like you were showing code, but
yes.
I don't know, Romans, do you see code?
No,
I only see the UI.
No. Wait.
And yeah, my suggestion. So if you're not sure about how to build something, it's pretty much the same as you do with email.
Now, do you see my screen now?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you see the code?
Now I see code, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I was presenting before is the junction drop down, which is the field.
Can you make the font larger a little bit?
Let's say I don't know how to do it. This.
Zoom in, there it is.
Yes, okay. It's better now?
Yeah, a bit better.
You want more?
Sure. Oh, now it's perfect, yes.
Okay, so in the drop down, in the junction drop down, I have this constructor, and I pass options which are defined by this object. So, for example, I was presenting you the code, for example, to insert a join. I have here all the cases to delete a join.
So when you say delete join, you mean delete from the table that joins?
Yeah, we have three tables. We have the source table, let's say reservations. We have the junction table, which joins the reservations to tags.
Yeah.
And we have tags, which is the target table, let's say. So here I insert a join, and there's also a flag to enable this check, because sometimes the dropdown can, under certain cases, can allow duplicate values. So I can have two values which are test 5, and this can create complications. And this, for example, will insert a new tag, and it will also insert a join. So it's an insertion into the target table and a join. So I can share the code with you to see how it works.
If you post it on Gist and send it to us. It looks like, so you made a class, it's independent, so you just use it as a container for your code. It doesn't extend anything. The correct way to implement this would be the same way how I suggested you should implement email field. So you define ATK data field, you extend that, and create a dedicated type, field type, right? And then we also need a presentation for the field on the form, and perhaps a decorator on the what do you call it? The table. Yeah, so it probably needs to show something nice on the table. I didn't see in your CRUD. It probably is not showing anything, but a proper solution would also not only show it in the form, but also in CRUD. So if you click Save, you should see a list of those etiquettes inside the table. I think if you share what you have, maybe when I have some time, I'll play around with it and try to do a proper implementation, because this is something we used in our project as well, but I think we implemented it in a very direct way. So it would be nice to have a proper implementation.
Yeah, because right now, for example, I want to pass options in that, but I do it with a separate object, which is not the ATK way. But at this point, I don't know how to do this differently.
Yeah, I'll just share. I have to think about that, and maybe I'll come up with something.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll share the code with you guys, so you can take a look at it, how it's done. The logic is okay, but my problem is how to integrate this in an ATK way. Because it works for me here. I add it here in the form. I set the options, and then I put here, and it works. But I would like to do add fields, and add the field from here, like we do with dates or any field. And I don't know if this is possible.
What do you mean update?
Sorry?
What exactly do you want to add? From where to where?
Here I'm in a form. Okay, I extend form, and here I have tabs, and in the tabs I add groups, and in the groups I add fields.
So you want it to be like a normal field?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I understand.
And I don't know if this is possible. Right now I do this, which is okay for my purpose, but it doesn't integrate with ATK like regular fields.
Yeah, fine. And my addition and my wish would be so that when you're implementing that, it can be a junction table, as you call it, but that's only one way. You can also serialize the data into the like in your case would be into the reservation table. So in this case, you simply have a varchar or maybe a text, and all the IDs will be stored in there.
Yeah, okay.
Of the tags. It just might make sense for some implementations, but you will have an option, either a table or this. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Yeah, so do share. That's it. I added to the agenda.
It's nice to see it working. Actually, it's nice M2M UI. Very simple. As long as you don't have too many elements and just want to display the label, it works perfectly.
Yes, it's quick. It's really usable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So it works for me, but I wanted to see if there's a way to because currently I cannot add it into a group. For example, it always has a full width, so I cannot put it in a group like here.
We actually might look into that. If you try to put it into a group, what happens?
I think it doesn't move into the group. It's just always full width. But this is related to my method here because it's really hacky.
Right.
So I have this method add field, and I can add it in a container, which I pass by reference, as you see. So it's hacky.
Yeah.
This method is hacky, but I didn't know how to do otherwise.
Yeah,
I didn't have any idea how to do it.
Stuff like that. I don't think this is documented anywhere. So, like, how to extend fields. I don't think we have it. Okay.
Okay, so I'll post the code for you guys, and we'll see if we can do something more with it.
Yep.
Yeah, it would be cool to have this as a standard UI for many-to-many relations when data gets native M2M support. We need a UI for it.
When data gets an M2M relationship support, we'll probably also refactor things which are in here because I don't use any of that. I really use simple stuff.
Can you show me your junction table in a database? How does it look?
Yes. Just give me a second. So the junction table. So these are the statuses. Yes.
Reservation tag.
That's it. So that's a reservation ID, the tag ID, and when it was created. It's a really simple table.
Yeah. So I would probably drop the ID from here and create a key. I don't know. Can we create a primary key on 2 fields?
You can create it, but I had tried, not now, but I had tried stuff with that, and ATK had problems. I had composite keys, so my primary key was the combination of this and this.
Yeah.
But ATK did not work, so I resorted to adding surrogate keys everywhere. I think they call this.
You can't use it as a model.
Sorry?
You can't use this table as a model, but the idea is to use it simply to store the relationship. Because the problem, there was implementation in our case as well. And the problem is if you updating the tags, it would delete the existing records and then re-add them once again, and it keeps deleting and then adding, deleting and adding, and that's not nice. But if you have, if you only have the like the list, if you have the unique key on those two, you can do insert ignore, and just it would silently ignore if there are any duplicates, and will add a new one, and you will never get a combination where, for example, the tag is repeated multiple times.
But you could also add a unique key to the database over these two fields to achieve this.
I don't have trouble with either. I don't understand what you say, or I don't have trouble because I only insert joins for new values. There's no delete and add again. That's the method that does this.
So how can I remove the tag?
How can they remove? What happens is that when the form is posted and the save method is triggered, I take an array diff of the control value. I take a diff and I only delete those which were removed from the control.
Okay.
I don't add everything. And what is modified, what is added, is handled by insert joins. And here we have several. We have a numeric case and a text case, string case. And I handle each one differently.
Yeah.
So there's no add and remove for things that are already selected. Even if you remove it and re-add it, it will not remove it and add it. Then it will keep it as is.
So in here, so what you can do, you see you have new values and it's already a list, so you're iterating. If you use DSQL, the DSQL is like a lower level library. It's you're not using models at all. You're building your query yourself. You can actually say delete all records where ID matches the following list. And then I suppose that
I don't have trouble with that. My only trouble is how I can turn this into a traditional ATK field.
Yeah.
But I don't know if this is possible. So we'll see. I'll post the code, and perhaps it's possible and it's easy. Or it's not. In that case, I'll keep it as is and use it.
Okay. So we've got to meet. We have been online for 1 hour almost. I think good meeting, guys.
Sorry.
Yeah, we I think it was a good meeting. We discussed a lot of things.
Yeah, definitely.
I have to go spend time with my family.
Yes.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you next week. And
yeah, see you next week.
Looks very good. I like how your application looks.
Yeah, I do too. Looks nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and looks simple enough.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.